A good yard to everybody. It's great to see everybody. We should have a gesund. Everyone should be well. Kodesh Baruch should bless you with kol mili demeitav. Anything that you want, that you need, should be fulfilled. The main thing is you should have health, you and your mishpacha, and should be by alam and shir smachos together. Okay, we're up to Tes Amid Beis. Tonight's daf is Yud, Baruch Hashem. We're up to Tes Amid Beis, Pinchas Eliyahu. We're four lines from the bottom. Okay, now we know there are four avodas in the dam. There's the shchita, there's the kabbalah, there's the elocha, and there's rika. Now we know we're discussing the concept of shaloi lishma. So if you'd go ahead and you would go ahead and shecht shaloi lishma, right? Then the question is, what? There's a chatas, then it's no good. And Pesach's no good. Or the carbon is good, but it's like we've been discussing that. Okay, a nice difference that we haven't focused on so much, but we should be aware of, is shinui bailim. In other words, if I would shecht if you had a kohen who shechted Ruvain for Shimon, the carbon would not be puzzle, because the kapara is in the zrika, guys. Shinui bailim is only in the zrika, guys. Very important. Shinui bailim is only in the zrika, not in the shchita, not in the halacha, not in the kabbalah. Shinui kodesh is in any one of the four. What we're gonna have now, the opening part of today's daf is, can you be machashe from one avodah to another? So the classic example is pigel. Pigel means you go ahead, you shech the kohen shechs the carbon, al menas to go ahead and do srika the next day, or he's makabel the dam to do srika the next day. In other words, it has to be he's machashe for the srika, because pigel has to be in the srika because it's achilas mizbeach, or to eat the carbon the next day. So pigel is the din in the achila. I'm going to repeat this forever, but that's the din. Let's say I begin okay. I say I'm shechting the carbon lishmoy. It's a shlomim. I'm shechting as a shlomim, right? But I do this rika. Al manas to do this rika not okay. Could you machashe from one avodah to another? We know by pigel you can. What about by shaloi lishma? Can you machashe from one avodah to another? Do you learn that shaloi lishma from pigel or not? If you learn it out from pigel, then you could be machashe from one avodah to an avodah, and you'd have the it would not be oil l'shem bailo. If it's chatas, it would not be good completely. Or no, you can't be machashev. That din of machashev lavoida is unique to pigel, but it doesn't exist in the realm of lishma. That's the machlokes between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. Says the Gemara, Itmar. Shachta lishma. You shechted the animal lishma. Lizroik dama shaloi lishma. So now you did one avoida correctly, to be machashev another avoida not correctly. Rabbi Yochanan psula, it's puzzle. Reish Lakish ksheira, it's a good carbon. Rabbi Yochanan psula mechashve me avoida la avoida, that you could be mechashev from one avoida to the next. So since even though my shchita was lishma, my srika was loy lishma, so what I had in mind by the shchita is oil in this rika, because I'm mechashev from one avoida to the next avoida. V'yalvina machsheves pigel, and I learn it out from the machshava of pigel. Reish Lakish is of the opinion ksheira, it's kasha. The carbon is kasha. Why? Because ein mechashim me avoida lavoida. So since the shchita l'shma, the carbon's good, because my machshava for the shaloi l'shma doesn't count, because you can't be mechashiv one to the other. It's right kishmak, guys. Once you have pigel rois, and we're gonna be pigel throughout the Masechta. Now Baruch Hashem, you have it. Okay, now. Now we're going to go ahead and find this machlokes between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish in another realm, but the same machlokes. We say machlokes. Where's that machlokes? It's by avodah zara. The machlokes is going to be what by avodah zara. The Uzla Tamayo Ditmar Lenny Yud Amid Aleph. We're picking it up in the middle of something, and I'll chazer riba. Hashoichet es habehema. You shecht an animal, al menas lizroik dama la'avodas kechavim. So you shechted the animal, that's shchita, on the condition to do a zrika for avodah zara. So the shchita was not for avodah zara, but the zrika was. Ulahak the chelbal avodas chavim, or to burn, or to go ahead and burn to avoid the zara. So this is mechashmin le'avoid le'avoida. You had a machshava. Now this is not a carbon, guys. This is it's an animal chulin. But the question is, does my shchita that I did okay, can I be mechashev to mess it up by my zrika for avoid the zara or by burning it for avoid the zara? Now, why would the machlokes be, guys? That's fair, right? Like Rabbi Yochanan says, "Mechashmin lavoida lavoida," it would be avoida zara. Like Rabbi Yochanan, like Reish Lakish, it would not be. Okay. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Asura. It's asa. It's zivchei mesim. Mechashmin avoida lavoida. V'yafrin chutz mibifnim. And I learn out shchutei chutz over here, meaning the chulin. I learn out from pigel. Guys, I learned out from pigel. Again, pigel is mechashmin lavoida lavoida. So I'm going to learn out. Over here does not mean shchutei chutz. That shchutei chutz is going on a carbon. This is chulin. It means, will I learn out halacha of outside from halacha of inside? The halacha of pigel is an inside, mifnim, inside the base hamikdash. Will I learn out to avoid the zara, which is a machshava chutz, right? Again, but don't make a mistake of shchutei chutz. That's a carbon. It's not. It's mutter. It's not asabana. Because you can't. Okay? So now, why do you need both? In other words, we have the chayra, we have the same thing. I would say what maybe by pigel inside you would. In other words, lishma is the carbon, pigel's the carbon. It's more to say that what you could be machashav by the kamash malon by that not. V'yashminin baha, right over here what meaning what over here inside the base of Migdash we have lishma baha ka'amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says halacha. Avol behachi by avoid the zara which is outside. Aim moedel reish lakish that what. You have to tell me both. Okay, that's the sugya, guys. That's the sugya. Very gishma. Kiyasir avdimi. Now here's, guys. What we're going to do is we're going to bring two amaroyim to bring a raya to one to Reish Lakish, one to Rabbi Yochanan, one to Reish Lakish. The raya to Rabbi Yochanan is a little difficult, and it's not difficult in terms of the end. It's just difficult in terms of the yediyos. There are a tremendous amount of yediyos over here, and I'll go over each one because I can't take for granted that I remember that, but more importantly, that you remember that. Okay, so now, Kiyasir Avdimi Omar, Masav Rav Yirmiyah l'siyui l'Reb Yochanan, Reb Ila l'siyui Reb Reish Lakish. Rav Yirmiyah is going to bring a riot to the sheet of Reb Yochanan. What's the sheet of Reb Yochanan, fellas? That mechashmin l'avoida l'avoida, and Rabbi Loy is going to bring a riot to Reish Lakish that ain't mechashmin l'avoida l'avoida. Okay. What's the right? Rabbi Nisula Rabbi Yochanan. Guys, Uma b'makoim Shem Amar Hareini Shoichet Chutz Lizmanoi. Right? If you would say, I'm shechting this Chutz Lizmanoi, would it be pigel? Why? Because pigel, guys, has to be an achilas mizbeach or achilas adam. So, guys, here's pigel. I'm shechting this animal on menas to eat the meat Chutz Lizman. I'm shechting this animal al menas lizroik doma chutz lizman. Here's the SAT corollary. Meat is to man. Blood is to the mizbeach, but meat is to man. In other words, blood on the mizbeach is achila. In other words, pigel has to be achilas mizbeach or achilas adam. So if you shech inside the base of migdash, you're shechting with a machshava of pigel, but you only didn't. I shechted for what? That I'm shechting chutz lizmanoi, nothing. It's kosher. But shach by almanas lizroik damai chutz lizmanoi pasol. What happens when it's shecht in the base of migdash? Almanas to go ahead and do zerika. Yeah, that would be pasol. Good. So inside, guys, shchita inside not a problem. Shchita zrika inside is a problem. Makam shema mahareini shoichet shaloi lishmai pasol. Guys, if I shech the carbon shaloi l'shmai, right? Is the carbon good? And thus the shchita alone passes. So guys, watch. You have two kabbanis. One, you have a machshava of shchita of chutz l'zmanoi. No problem. It's still kosher. What happens if you add this Rika component? Then what? Then it's no good. Guys, look at me. Guys, look at me. If you do shchita alone, it's not a problem. Add this Rika component, it is a problem. By Shaloi Lishma, where the Shechita alone is a problem, Einoi Din, where this Rika is a problem. So Memela Mechashmin Lavoida, that's the raya to who? To Rabbi Yochanan. Uma bin Makoim, where Shechita alone is still kosher, but Shechita with Zrika with Pasel, in a place where Shechita alone is no good, Einoi Din, Shechita and Zrika with Pasel. Beautiful, beautiful. So you want to go ahead and make this from pigel chutz lizmanai to what? To Shaloi Lishma. That's what we want. Okay, that's what the Gemara asks right away. Maskevla Rava bar Ailoi malachutz lizmanai shekein karis. Chutz lizmanai, guys. You know what? You can't learn from it. The Shaloi Lishma. The word at worst, Shaloi Lishma, the animal's not. At Shaloi Lishma, it's not. The animal's no good. Shaloi Oila for sure, but the animal's no good. Pigel, guys. Once you have the machshava of Lizraik, it automatically becomes shafsachi of karis in this piece of meat. Once I shecht an animal al menas Lizraik damai, right now this piece of meat echab geshafin. Kenny, that means I created. Right. I went ahead and I created in this piece of meat, I created a din of karis. So Memela, that's why. Therefore, you can be machashim lavoid lavoid. Because look at the chumrah, but I can't learn from here to l'shloi l'shma. That's the kasha. And the kasha, guys, removes this limud. Ella Amar Rava Bar Eloi. You want a limud for Rabbi Yochanan? Guys, you want to support Rabbi Yochanan? That mechashmin lavoid lavoida? You want to support for this? Hachi kamar. Now, guys, there's two types of pigel. Chutz lizman is an isakaritz. Chutz l'mokaim is asa, but there's no isakaritz. The way to remember it, guys, is zman. Zman is time. Karis is the lack of time. Karis, you cut it off for your time. That's the mnemonic to remember it. So the same limud, guys, except switch chutz lizmanai to chutz l'mokaimai. Guys, the same limud. Switch chutz lizmanai to chutz l'mokaimai. What are you gaining? There's no isakaris. There's no isakaris. But it's the same limud, no isakaris. Okay, now. Uma b'mokaim shema mahareni shoichet chutz l'mokaimai shu kasha. If you shechted chutz l'mokaimai in the base of Mikdash, will be kasha again. You need a chilas mizbeach. The animal will be puzzle. No din karis, but it's puzzle. Makim shemam arini shachet shloi l'shmoi shu puzzle. Shoichem nas lizrak dami shloi l'shmoi ain't it din shu puzzle. So you see mechashim lavoida lavoida, and now you can't ask what mala chutz l'smanai chutz l'mkoimai. There's a din karis because there's no din karis chutz l'mkoimai. So it's the same limud. Okay, guess what? You know what the Gemara is going to do? They're going to find another kasha. Maskevla Rav Ashi malachutz l'mkoimai shekein noyig b'chol hazvachim. Taima b'shaloi l'shmoi she'en noyig el pesach achatas. I can passel any korban, no matter, go across the board with the machshava of chutz l'makom. Any korban, go from soup to nuts, any korban. An oila, a chatas, a shlomim, a pesach, a b'chor, a maisa, anything. Chutz l'makom is out. The only psula shloi l'shma, we said, it's kasha el shloi l'bailim, except for two. So how can I learn out shloi l'shmai from chutz l'makom? Chutz l'makom as a chumrah, it's noyig, that machshava. You know why can we guys? Why can we be machashev from one to the other? Because it's universal. Mashen king shaloi l'shma, which is only two, maybe not. So what's your right to Rabbi Yochanan? That's the kasha we're asking on this limud from chutz l'makom. Okay. Ella Amar Rav Ashi Hachi Kamar Uma b'makom Shem Amar Hareini Shoichet l'Shem Ploini Shehu Kasha Lizrei Doimer l'Shem Ploini Pasel. Okay, guys, let's go through slow. Outside, guys, you guys, this is a yisoid. I just said it to you. I'm a koyin. I'm shechting lazes carbon for heshi. Is the carbon puzzle? Why not? Because what did I tell you? It's totally in the zrika. It's totally in the kapara. It's totally in the lizraik. So if I just Kohen just shechts with another guy in mind, it still fillets the stern. It's not going to work for Heshi. What happens if the Kohen says I'm shechting it for laces carbon, almanas lizrek for Heshi? Out. So ma bin mokain in the base of Migdash Shaloi Lishma, where the shchita doesn't passel, but the zrika does. Good. So now you geschmack. Continue. Says Rav Ashi. I lost the place. Okay. Mokim shema maharini shoichet shaloi lishmon who passel. I lost the place. 1 second. Elam Rav Ashi. Hachigama. Uma b'mokim shema maharini shoichet l'shem ploini shu kasha lizreik damai l'shem ploini. L'shem ploini passel. Mokim shema maharini shoichet shaloi lishmon shu passel. Shachli amnas lizreik damai shaloi lishmon ein adin shem passel. And this stays, guys. This is the Kal V'Chaim. This stays. Okay, let's go over it. Let's go over it. Outside. Eye contact outside. Guys, we're going to learn out Shinoi Kodesh from Shinoi Bailam. We're going to learn out Shinoi Kodesh from Shinoi Bailam. What's the limud? Uma b'mokain by Shinu Bailam. Shchita alone does not passel, but Zrika, which Shchita does. Shaloi Lishma, with Shchita alone would passel. Shaloi Lishma. Einoidin that Shchita and Zrika will passel. So you see, Machashme by Lavoida, that's Rav Ashi's Kal V'Chaim. And we'll say it again one more time, because the Gemara is going to bring it up again. Again, we started off with Pigel. We started off Chutz L'Mak, Chutz L'Zman, Chutz L'Makim. We threw that out the window, okay? There's two Chumas over there. One's Koris, one's B'chol Zevachim. So now Rav Ashi is coming along with the Raya to Rabbi Yochanan that you could be Machashiv from one avoided to the next by Shaloi L'Shma. What's his Raya? His Raya is from Shinui Bailam. Uma b'mokim, Shchita alone does not passel, because Shinui Bailam, you have, if you do a Zrika, it does. Shaloi Lishma, Shinui Kodesh, where Shchita alone will passel, ain't din that what? That with Zrika will passel. There you go. There you go. Eisen. It stays. That's the Raya to Rabbi Yochanan that Mechashman Lavoy Lavoida. That's the Raya to Rabbi Yochanan that you Mechash from what? From one Avoida to the next. Continues the Gemara. We need a Raya to who? Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish said what? Ein Mechashman Lavoida Lavoida. You can't. A Raya to Reish Lakish. Okay. Rabbi Loy l'siyur l'Reish Lakish. Rabbi Loy is going to make a Raya to Reish Lakish. Leitoima bizrika. Now, guys, we learned out Shini Kodesh, Shini Bailim, Dalit Amid Beis, right? That the hekesh at the bottom, everything to Shlamim, we made a hekesh. Good? We made a hekesh to Shlamim, just like Shlamim, Shini Kodesh, Shini Bailim's out, so to what? All Korbanis out. Now, if you're going to be machashe from avoid l'avoid, he has a tremendous kasha. Listen to this kasha. Loi toima bizrika. Don't bring me any psukim by zrika. V'teisei mim kal v'choyma mibinyonei mishchita v'kabbalah. And I'll learn from a kal v'choyma that zrika shaloi l'shma is no good. L'may hilchas l'kas rachmana. Loima de'im machashim avoid l'avoida. Okay, what's going on over here? Let's see Rashi. Guys. Loi toima bizrika. Mechashmin shaloi l'shma. You don't have to tell me by zrika that a machshava shaloi l'shma does not works. The mabina leila el b'kula avodas. We already did it already. We did it all, right? We had a hekesh and we had limudim. Why did you need a limud for what? For zrika. You didn't need a limud. Why? Because mishchita v'kabbalah. Uma shchita shekosher bizar. Psula b'shaloi l'shma. Shchita, which is kosher by a non-koyen, is if you do it. Shaloi l'shma is puzzles. Zrika like kol shekain. Zrika certainly, which is only by koyen, ain't idin that it's going to pass shaloi l'shma. The chi parachta. What are you going to ask? Mal shchita shchein poiseles shaloi l'shem oichlim pesach. Guys, why do we say shchita if you shecht a korban pesach for an alta mensch, a person can't eat, right? That was the chumrah. If you shecht a pesach for an alta mensch, so what you're going to say kabbalah tachiach, right? My kabbalah, I don't. Because then you can learn that between the two. Ella, so why did you mention it? It's to teach me that you don't have you can't be machashev one to the next. That's the limit of what says the Gemara one more time. Loi taima bezrika shaloi lishma. Don't say anything zrika shaloi lishma. So we learned earlier hazorik es dama shlamim. Guys, we learned out hazorik es dama shlamim. It's a little bit before, I picked it up over here. We already, here's what we did. Here's what we did. We had a shlomim. Guys, let's go back. I'm going back because I led you astray. And you wouldn't know it, but I do. And it's right after Rosh Hashanah, and I have to live with myself. Okay, so, and Benji, Mrs. Greenfield wants to understand this, so I'm going over it. So now, we had established in the Shlomim realm everything, right? And therefore, the hekesh was to everything to Shlomim, yeah? Right? Because we said, why do we need Shlomim? We had a pasuk that told me that you do a zrika shaloi lishma is no good. What was the pasuk? It says, hazoyrik es dam shlomim. You do zrika to dam shlomim. So we learned it out. Says Rabbi Loi, you wouldn't need that pasuk, fellas. You could learn out zrika, the fact that shchita and Kabbalah, you can learn it between the two. And then so no, you don't need a pasuk. Why did you bring a pasuk? To teach me that that you can't, that's what it's coming to teach me. Okay, so in other words, don't tell me by Shlomim, this Rika. I know it from Shchita and Kabbalah. So why did you tell it to me? The raya that aim mechashvin may avoid the lavoida. You're not mechashiv from one avoida to the next. That's his raya. So Rabbi Yochanan's raya is the Kal V'chomer of Rav Ashi. We learn how to Kal V'chomer Shinui Kodesh from Shinui Bailin, right? And Reish Lakish's raya of Rabbi Loi is the fact that we brought a pasuk vizarak as damash obin, which you didn't have to, because I could have learned it from a memetzinu between shchita, Kabbalah and halacha, Kabbalah and shchita, and that's his raya. Very geschmack. Maskav Rav Papa v'dilnu l'mechashmi avoidul avoida. Maybe that's what the pasuk comes to teach me. Why do you assume it's come to teach me a mechashvin? I could just easily tell you it's come to teach me you could be mechashvin from one to the next. Says the Gemara, if that's the case, in Cain, lishtikra minei v'teisei mikal v'choyim Ravashi. Guys, watch. Guys, listen to this counterintuitive way of thinking. It's a classic Gemara. Eye contact, guys. Eye contact. Listen, classic Gemara. We have a limud that mechashvin l'avoida l'avoida. It's Ravashi's kal v'choyim, right? I have a pasuk that I don't need. What's that pasuk teaching me? It's teaching me a mechashvin. Fred the Gemara, maybe it's teaching mechashvin. So if it's teaching mechashvin, I don't need the pasuk. I have a kal v'choyim. In other words, you know for sure the pasuk's teaching me a mechashvin, because if it's teaching mechashvin, I wouldn't need the pasuk because I have the kal v'choyim Ravashi. Madach shini bailim shchita doesn't work with zrika and hassel. Certainly shini kodesh, right? When zrika does go ahead, shchita does work. Okay, that's geschmack. Okay, the idach and Rabbi Yochanan parachachi malahanach shkein to unim tzafain. In other words, your whole premise, fellas, is you have an extra pasuk. Of course, you could learn out from Kabbalah and shchita. You could learn that. In other words, guys. The reason why I have an extra pasuk of Zrika, because I could have learned it out from guys, look at me, because I could learn it from Kabbalah and Shchita. You know what the Gemara is going to do? It's going to destroy this. So once it destroys this, I don't have this to teach me a mechashvim avoida avoida. How am I going to destroy this? Let's see. Okay. Now we have the Kabbalah by Lacha. We're going to go ahead and end Muna right now. Malahanach, Shchita and Kabbalah, shekain to unois tzafin. Both Shchita and Kabbalah have to be in the north. And guys, and they exist by the inner chatas. The inner chatas, let's say a chatas in Yom Kippur, the Helam Dava that we had, or the Mashiach that we had in Hurrius, right? All these are called chatas pinimius. Yes, there's no zrika. There's no zrika on the Mizbeach HaChitzayin. And the shchitas and Kabbalah and shchita have to be in the north, but zrika not. So l'chayra had a pircha on your kal v'chayim. Therefore, you need to tell me to v'zarik as a shlomim. I needed the pasuk v'zrika. I can't learn it from Kabbalah and shchita. Memela, I need a pasuk v'zrika. If I need the pasuk v'zrika, I don't have a pasuk extra to teach me. That's Rabbi Yochanan. Okay. Malahana shkin tunis tzafim v'yeshem b'chatas apnimius v'idach and Reish Lakish. I l'chayra right Reish Lakish hashtamiya b'shlomim kaimen. Guess what? Shlomim, you don't need the north. We're speaking about a shlamim. I have pasuk speaking about v'zorik as a shlamim. We're not speaking about a chatas. Therefore, a mechash. Guys, good? Itma. Okay, that's very good. So again, just what we saw today so far. Rabbi Yochanan, Reish Lakish, Rabbi Yochanan, mechashmin lavoida lavoida. Reish Lakish not. They not only argue by Kachim, they argue by Avodah Zarah. You need to tell me both realms. We have a riot to Reish Yochanan from a Kal V'choima of Rav Ashi, and we have a raya to Reish Lakish in the fact that we have a pasuk for Zorak es Adam Shlomim, which I was unnecessary because I could have learned it from Shchita and Kabbalah. Okay, Itmar. Shachta Lishma, Lizrei Dama Shaloi Lishma. I shechted Lishma, that's good, I did the right thing. Lizrei Dama Shaloi Lishma. So guys, this is the class, this would be depend upon Machlokes, Reish Lakish, and Rabbi Yochanan, right? I did. Okay. Rav Nachman am a psula like Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi am a ksheira like Reish Lakish. The Hada be Rabbi legabe Rav Nachman mikal b'choyim de Rav Ashi. And Rabbi switched to Rav Nachman because of the kal b'choyim of Rav Ashi. What was just for finally for Bez Hashem? What's the kal b'choyim of Rav Ashi? Ma da shchita lebailim does not passel, but shchita zrika does. Shchute the shma does passel ain't idea that what with zrika that it would in the chashman levoid. Good. Rabbi Lezer, guys, in the Mishnah, this is Daf Yud. We're still explaining the Mishnah from Daf Beis, right? What did Rabbi Eliezer say in the Mishnah Daf Beis, fellas? That even Asham and have a din as a chatas. We said a chatas shaloi l'shma is passel. A shlamim and oila is the carbon's kasha. El shloi oila l'baylam b'shem chayva. Yeah, Masha'en came the chatas and Pesach. Rabbi Eliezer says, right, an asham is like a chatas, and just like the chatas is passel shaloi l'shma, so too an asham is passel shaloi l'shma. So now, what's the source for Rabbi Eliezer? What's the source for Rabbi Eliezer's din? Okay, Tanya, I'm Rabbi Eliezer. Chatas ba'al chet. Chatas comes as a result of a chet. Chatas chaylev, right? V'asham ba'al chet, and asham comes again, not an asham mitzayro or an asham nazir, but stam an asham comes on a chet, asham ilas, asham shifcha charufa. Ma chatas shaloi l'shma pasula, just like chatas shaloi l'shma is pasul. Af asham shaloi l'shma is pasul. So to an asham shaloi l'shma is pasul. Amalei Rabbi Yeshua says Rabbi Yeshua to Rabbi Eliezer. Again, Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua are bar pluktis, guys. They both they argue all the time. These are bar pluktis, and the halacha is not like Rabbi Eliezer because Rabbi Eliezer is shamuti, right? He's from either because he was put in Cherim, Gemara in Bab Metzia, or because he was a Talmud of Shammai. Shamuti is lashon Shammai. Okay, so now lo yimamrit bechatas shekain dama l'mayla. Okay, here's the idea, guys. Outside. Mizbeach had a line around the middle called the chut hasikra, a red thread. Every carbon, with the exception of two, was brought below this line. There were two karbonis that were brought above this line. One is the carbon chatas. The carbon chatas was put on by the kohen. It was daubed on the picture a cube, and you have the corner. It was daubed on all four corners, but not just didn't put it on top over here. If you have a cube, right? Let's say view this as a cube. It was, let's say it would go down over here. Take with a finger and then go down there. That was above the chut hasikra. In addition, the oilis ha'oif was done above the chut hasikra, but it wasn't done all the way on top. It was just done. It was done above and was pushed in. Okay, those are the only two. An asham is like an oila and a shlamim. It was brought below. Now says Rabbi, you memetzinu. Chatas says Rabbi Eliezer. Chatas is a chait, no good. Asham's a chait, no good. On a pircha like that, you can ask any kasha. You know what's the kasha when they ask? Malach chatas that you need above the chut hasikra. But an asham, guys, is below the chut hasikra. So therefore, you can't learn the asham from the chatas. As I read the Gemara. Ama loy Rabbi Yeshua, loy yamamit b'chatas shekain dama l'mayla. The dam goes above the chut hasikra. Ama loy Rabbi Eliezer, Pesach yachiach. 1 second, guys. Is it Pesach pasul? Shaloi l'shma? Is it Pesach below the chut hasikra? Yes. So what do you see? That being above the chut hasikra is not a chumrah. Memela, I could learn out asham from chatas. Your whole sad to say that chatas you can't learn from because it has the chumrah, it's above. Pesach is puzzle, and it's below. Memela, Asham also could be puzzle. So, Amalei Rabbi Eliezer, Pesach Yechiach, Shedamei Lemata, Ushachta Shleishma puzzle. Amalei Rabbi Yeshua, Mala Pesach, Shekein Zmana Kavua. You know why it's puzzle? It has a set time. You Dalid, afternoon, that's it. After that, no. Amalei Rabbi Eliezer, Chatas Techiach. A Chatas will disprove you. It doesn't have a set time. Amalei Rabbi Yeshua, Amid Beis, says Rabbi Yeshua, you're not winning this one. Chazrani Chalila, we're going back Chalila to a circle. I'm going to tell you again. In other words, I'm going to tell you again. Okay? Now, normally what happens now is Rabbi, guys, what if you're Rabbi Eliezer, what would you do? You know enough Gemara, guys. Rabbi Eliezer is going to go in a different mahalach. Right now, Rabbi Eliezer say, I can learn out Me'at Sad. What are you going to say? You're going to say the Chatas is Lamaila, Pesach Tachiach. What are you going to say? The Pesach is Kavua, Chatas Tachiach. In other words, but the Gemara doesn't do that. The Gemara will ask that later on. L'chayra, we always go put it back in the hopper, right? We go put it back in, but we don't do that. So the Gemara is going to ask that later on in a second. Okay, Rabbi Eliezer, now Rabbi Eliezer now learns a new din. Chazer Rabbi Eliezer, v'dana din acher. So in other words, why didn't Rabbi Eliezer go ahead and say you can learn it out between Chatas and Pesach? He doesn't. Good? Okay. Now it says here, guys, I have 3 psukim. It says v'shachat es oisoi v'mokam asher shachat es ha'oila l'fnei Hashem chatas hu. So it says by chatas hu, and then it says chatas hu and lishma ksheira shaloi lishma psula. Pesach. What does it say by Pesach? V'matam zevach Pesach hu. It says lashon hu. Good. Hu b'zvicha hu lishmai kasha shaloi lishmai pasel. Afasham nema by hu. Hu lishmai kasha shaloi lishmai pasel. So in other words, Rabbi Eliezer has a new mahalach. Guys, what's his mahalach? It says hu by chatas. It says hu by Pesach. Both of them shaloi lishma is pasel. It says hu by Asham, and also shaloi lishma is pasel. So forget the limud from Pesach. Forget the limud from chatas. It's kseres hakasiv. It's not a svara. It's kseres hakasiv. Hu. Amalei Rabbi Yeshua. Chatas nema by he b'shchita he lishma kshera shaloi lishma psula. Pesach nema by hu b'zvicha hu lishma kasha shaloi lishma pasel. Aval Asham lo nema by hu ella when la'acha haktaras emurin. You know when it says who, guys, by the Asham? It says who after the burning of the fats that go to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. For who atzmai shloi huktu emurim kosher. Fellas, by now you should know one thing. What's the main part of the carbon? The dam. The main part of the carbon is the dam. Once you finish this rikas adam, for all intents and purposes, the carbon's good. You can't burn the emurim until you sprinkle. You can't, if it's an achila carbon, you can't eat before Hashem eats. But what happens if you don't do the emurim part? The carbon's still good. So guys, you're going to tell me he's burning the emurim shaloi lishma? That would be a problem? If he wouldn't do it at all, it wouldn't be a problem. If he wouldn't bring it at all, escape nishon. Doesn't make a difference. So Memela says, retorts Rabbi Yeshua to Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer, you want to tell me who? I'm not buying it. The who by Shchita, by Chatas, I got. The who by Pesach, I got. I don't got the who by Asham. That's speaking after the Haktaras Emurim. And if you would do it, Haktaras Emurim Shloi Yishma, there's no way it's going to passel. You know why? Because if you didn't do the Haktaras Emurim at all, it wouldn't passel. Beautiful. Mamish, a gorgeous upshlag. Okay, says the Gemara. Amalei Rebbe Eliezer, Hari Omer, it says, okay, this is his third, guys, this is his third attempt. It says, Kachatas Ke'asham. What does it say? He Kachatas Ke'asham. What's that called? When you go ahead and juxtapose things to each other? It's called a hekesh. Why do we know about a hekesh? That's how Rabbi Eliezer has his winning hand, right? Kakatis ka'asham. So once you said kakatis ka'asham, mefregnish kan kashas. Eimei shivan ala hekesh. That's what he told Rabbi. That's what he told Rabbi Yeshua. So Rabbi Yeshua is going to have to dingzach with this, right? He's going to have to find a different lim of chatas Hashem to say in Hashem Lishma is good. Oh, that's the Rabbi Lesa. Ma chatas shalei Lishma pasal, af Hashem shalei Lishma pasal, and that one is his heker. So again, we had 3 attempts according to limud, either from we wanted the first guys. Rabbi Eliezer wanted to learn from Shchita and Kabbalah. Didn't work. He wanted to learn from who didn't work. Okay, guess what? Don't ask me kashas. Okay, now going back to the first limud. What was the first limud? Just like chatas is comes on the chet is not lishma is not good. So to asham. Why did Rabbi Eliezer say? Rabbi Yeshua said, "What are you talking about? Chatas is above the chut sikra. Pesach yilchiach. Pesach is man kavua." Now, and Rabbi Eliezer went off. He didn't go back and say there's a mehatzad. He didn't go say. He could have gone ahead and said, I can't learn from one of them, but I can learn from both of them. I can't learn from Chatas alone. I can't learn from Pesach alone, but I can learn from both of them alone. But he got off that. Why did he get off that? That's what the Gemara is going to ask right now. Amamar. Amal Rabbi Yeshua. Chazvani Chalila. We're going back in circles. Mahada Dina. Why didn't Rabbi Eliezer say, let's put it back in the hopper? V'leisei b'mehatzad. Right? You have a mehatzad. Look, Rashi tells you the mehatzad. Go with the first thin line. The Pesach Chatas Necholim, right? Afani Evi Osham. What's the common denominator by Pesach Chatas? They're both eaten. So too, and they're both eaten, and Shaloi Lishma is no good. Afani Evi Osham, that's eaten, and what? It's no good. But you didn't do that. You could have done that, but you didn't do that. So the Gemara wants to know why. Back in the Gemara. The Ikel Mifrich, Mishum the Ikel Mifrich, Malat Sarashava Shebehen Shekain Yeshbot Sad Karis. Guys, what's your two kabbanas? Chatas, Pesach. Chatas is Sad Karis. As they say, I'm laughing. You bet your bippy, right? I'm dating myself. Guys, of course, Chatas is Karis. It's a Karis. Guys, when do you bring a Chatas? When you did a Aveira, that would have been amazing. Chayv Karis. Is there a Tzad Karis to Pesach? There sure is. You don't bring a Karim Pesach, you Chayv Karis. You don't bring a Karim Pesach, Chayv Karis. That's why Rebbe Eliezer got off that Sarashava, guys. He got off the Sarashava because there was a pircha between Malat Sarashava. You know why Shaloi the Shema is no good? Because it's Tzad Karis. Masha'en Kein Asham, where there's no Tzad Karis, right? Masha'en Kein Asham, where there's no Tzad Karis. Therefore, he got off that, and therefore he went to the who. Beautiful. Okay, now the Gemara is going to question that. Okay, but that's what the Gemara says right now. Okay, now. Amaloi Rabbi Yeshua, loyim amit bechatas, right? Loyim amit bechatas, shekain doma lemaila. Pirish. The only difference he could find between chatas and asham was that the dam went above. That's what he said. His sad chumrah for the chatas was that the blood was above the red line. That was his sad chumrah. That the blood was above the red line. That was his sad chumrah. Yeah. One is loyim amit bechatas shekain nichnas dama lefnai ulefnim. Right. Guys, you want to hear the chumrah of the chatas on Yom Kippur? We're going to in Yana de Yoma in Yom Kippur. Where does the blood go? Inside, arin, spritz. In other words, it goes inside. So why didn't he say that? Says the Gemara, because b'chatas chitzoni is coming in. Because you know what he's dealing with chatas? He's dealing with the outside chatas. He's not dealing with chatas penimius. He's not dealing with Helam Davar. He's not dealing with Koy Mashiach. He's not dealing with Yom Kippur. Now, Shem nichnas dam l'fnei l'fnim psula, because if a chatas chitzonius taka goes inside, it's puzzle. Islay. Now Islay Rabbi. So Shem nichnas dam l'fnei l'fnim psula. Okay. So Islay Rabbi Eliezer, af osham. Rabbi Eliezer is of the opinion, fellas, that if an Osham's blood goes in, it also becomes puzzle. Rabbi Eliezer is of the opinion that if an Osham's blood goes in, it's also puzzle, right? So therefore, he couldn't ask him that. Guys, the Gemara is going over and saying the different things he could have asked. Why did he just pick fellas? The dam going above. Why didn't he say that the dam passes when it goes inside? So what's his answer? Rabbi Lezer would have said, Hashem also passes when the dam goes inside, right? Shekei mechaperes al krisos, right? Because why didn't he ask that what? Why didn't he say, guys? It's missing from the Gemara, the lashon. Why didn't Rabbi Yeshua say to him the chumrah of chatas is mechaper for chorus? Masha'en kain what? Masha'en kain asham. Says the Gemara, because there is chatas the shmias kol. Let's say one of the oil of the guys. Again, this is Yediyah, we know this already. Vayikra hey, carbon oil of the one of them is shuas edis. There's no chi of chorus there. There's no chi of chorus there. So in other words, he couldn't say that, guys, outside. Look at me so far. Rabbi Yeshua retorts to Rabbi Eliezer. What does he say to him? How could you learn out from Asham from Chatas the dam's above? Fred the Gemara, why do you say to him that the dam passes inside? And the answer is because Rabbi Eliezer holds Asham also dam passes inside. Good. So now the Gemara says to him, why don't you say that Chatas is Mechapa for Karis? And the answer is not every Chatas is Mechapa for Karis. Chatas that you breed for what? For Shavuos this is not mechaper. Therefore, he couldn't say that. Okay. Vaita. Why didn't you say to him? She came to una arba matanos. Another idea. A chatas needs 4 daubings. An asham is shtayim shein arba. You go to 2 corners and you kill 2 birds with 1 stone, fellas. That's what you do. You kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So therefore, he couldn't have said that. Because what? Therefore, why didn't he say that? The Gemara is hacking again. Why did he pick on above? He could have gone ahead and picked a slew of things. So one of the things we're saying he could have picked now is the chumrah of the chatas. Why you can't learn asham from chatas is because the chatas is 4 daubings and this is only 2. That's what the Gemara asks. Says the Gemara on that. Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yeshua holds like Rabbi Yishmael. Damar kol adamim tuna arba matanos. All it needs 4. In other words, he didn't ask this because he doesn't hold of it. In other words, again, the reason. Let me go back over. The Gemara, the reason why Rabbi Yeshua chose above because he held Asham also would be possible if it went inside. The reason why he chose above and why did he pick Chi of Karis? Because he held Chata Shmias Kol isn't a Chi of Karis. So the Gemara is eliminating different tainas that Rabbi Yeshua could have said either because he held that way or because it wasn't true. Not all blood that goes inside is kasha. Asham is puzzle. In other words, you thought the Asham is good? No, it's not good. So just like Chatas is puzzle, Asham is also puzzle. Therefore, Rabbi Yeshua couldn't have said it. So now Rabbi Yeshua, why don't you go ahead and say that what the Chi of Karis? Shekain, forget that Chatas is above the Chut HaSikra. It's a Chi of Karis, Mashen Kain Asham. And so because Rabbi Yeshua says it's not true. Rabbi Yeshua says not every Chatas is a Chi of Karis. You have a Chatas that's brought from Shavuos Eidis, which is not a Chi of Karis. Says the Gemara now, why didn't Rabbi Yeshua say that it has 4 daubings? And the answer is because he held all kabbanis need 4 daubings. Good. So therefore, that's why Rabbi Yeshua said only above and not any other thing. Guys, you with me? That's why he picked this because he couldn't have said anything else. He only could have said above. He could have said nothing. Okay. So now the Gemara says, good 4 times, but 4 chronos? No one says 4 chronos, 4 horns. Ulataimech, ha'ika etzba, you could have said the finger. That in other words, you go ahead, you spritz with a finger here, you spritz with the kli, here's with a finger, and the ikka what, ikka chud keren, dafka the horn, and not the corner, and ikka achuda, el echad mitrei klas taminach. In other words, guys, as I told you, if you taking this daubing down over here on the side rather than on top, because so in other words, he picked one, an easy teretz. He picked one. When he cooked a bit many, but he picked one. Which one did he pick? Well, the Chatas is above the Chura Sikra and the Asham is not. That's it. Easy enough. Okay. Okay. Amamar, going back over the Brisa. Amaloi Rabbi Yeshua. Lo Yimarmid. Okay. What did he say to him? What did he say to him? He said to him that it has to be above the chut. Good. You're Rebbe Eliezer. You say kechatas ke'asham. Yes? Why did Rebbe Eliezer answer him that asham's also above? If you're learning it from a hekesh, chatas ke'asham, why did Rebbe Eliezer say to him that the asham is also above the chut hasikra? Just like you're telling me, just like the chatas is pasal shaloi lishma, the asham is pasal shaloi lishma, just like the chatas is above the chut hasikra, the asham is also above the chut hasikra. As I read the Gemara. Says the Gemara, Amamar. Amar Bishua, lo yamamit, le'malei, let Rebbe Eliezer, let Rebbe say to le'malei Rebbe Eliezer, let Rebbe Eliezer say to Rebbe Yeshua, Hashem nami damay lamaila. Hashem is also above. Amar Abaya, Hashem damay lamaila le'matzi. You can't possibly say that. Why? Kavachem me oila. Uma oila. Shehi kolel. It's the most chometic carbon. There's nothing eaten by a carbon, by an oila. It's totally burnt. It's totally to Hashem. Nonetheless, dama lemata. Its blood is below the chut hasikra. Asham she'ena kolel, an asham which is eaten by the kain, like kol shekain, that it should be what below the chut hasikra. So therefore, Rebbe Eliezer could not say it's above the chut hasikra. I'll ask on your kavachomer, mala oila shekain ena mechaperes. An oil is not mechaper, even though we said for a carbon, even though we said that it's mechaper for mitzvah saseh. But while we spoke out, it's really the tshuva that's mechaper, guys, right? And it's the carbon that's a darin. It's geschmack, right? So even it's a darin. Chatas oif techiach. Guys, chatas oif is bought below the chut hasikra. Chatas oif is bought below the chut hasikra. Okay, so you see that what the chatas oif is mechaper, and it's below. So you can't tell me what's your kal v'chomer that madach oila, which is what, which is kulei kol, is below. Asham, which is eaten, enodin is not below. Chatas oif techiach, guys. A chatas oif is eaten and it's below, right? I say mal chatas oif shekain ena min zevach. It's not a blood carbon. It's a malika. It's a nip carbon. You nip it. Oila techiach. The oila will disprove you. Loy rizeh krizeh. Oila and chatas oif are different. Loy rizeh krizeh. Hatzad hashavah shebehen shein kotche kedoshim. They're both kotche kedoshim v'dama lemata, and the blood is below the chut hasikra. Afani avi asham shu kodesh kedoshim v'dama lemata, and therefore the dam is below the chut hasikra. So therefore, there's no. You want to know why, if Rabbi Eliezer darshans a hekesh kechatas keasham, why don't we say the blood is above from a kal v'chomer between oila and chatas oif, which are both kosher kedashim and both below, so to asham, which is kosher kedashim, is below. Okay, very good. Another pshat. Amalei Rava mi pasrika l'Ravashi, the lifrach malit sarashava sheben shekain ein lehem kitzva. Right. Yitzhar shava and asham are not the same. An asham has a limited amount. Shtei shkolim. You get only X amount. Shtei kesef. You know, there's a kitzvah to the amount you're going to pay. By she'en came by oif and by oila, there's no kitzvah, no set amount. So you can't learn out asham from what, that it should be below. What's your limit? Just like oif and oila are kachik asham and below. So if the asham's below, you can't learn out asham. Asham has a kitzvah, has a set amount that you can spend on it. Mashen came oif and oila don't. Okay, so now guys, Ella, we're throwing out the limud from oif and oila, and we need a new limud. Why, like Rebbe Eliezer, the dam of the asham is not above the chut hasikra. Elahainu time of Rebbe Eliezer, the amakra, because the Torah says hakoyin hamechata oisa, the koyin that spritzes it, oisa dama lamaila. This is the miyat. The only one that's dam is lamaila, that spritzed, is the chatas. Vein doime shel shar shel acher lamaila. But there is no other carbon that's spritzed above. Okay. What are we speaking about? We're speaking about the chatas, and we have a limud, a miyat, dafka, the chatas, and not an asham. And nothing else, not an oil, nothing else. Good. Now, if you're going to make this limud, then I got a problem. Ihachi. Once you tell me hamachata is a miyat, I got a problem. Chatas nami nema oisa lishma kashera shaloi lishma psula. It says v'shachad oisa lechatas, right? So now I would say v'shachad oisa lechatas. Now, guys? What would I say, guys? Listen, v'shachad oisa lechatas. Only a chatas lishma is kasha, shaloi lishma is pasul. Any other carbon, afilu lishma, afilu shaloi lishma is right is kasha. Says the Gemara. Hashaz Zevachim bein lishma bein shaloi lishma ksherin. Outside. Tremendous amount of information. You had a kasha. How do you know the asham is not above? How do you know it's not above like a chatas? If you're Rebbe Eliezer and you're learning kachatas kasham, they should have the same din. And we know a chatas is above. Says the Gemara, it's a pasuk. It's a miyat by chatas. It says hamachata oisa. The one who spritzes oisa, the chatas is above and nothing else. Okay. Now, once you're telling me that this oisa by chatas is a miyat, I'll tell you the following. It says v'shachad oisa lechatas. So now let's go through it. I should shech the korban chatas l'shem chatas. What happens if it's not l'shem chatas? No good. But what's my miyat? But every other korban should be good. And we know it's not true. We're going back to the first Mishnah. If you're going to tell me the limit of mechata isa, then you have to tell me the limit of v'shachad isa. And just like mechata limits the chatas in halacha of being above, so the v'shachar isa limits the chatas shalai lishma. But everything else should be good. As I've read the Gemara. But let's see it inside one more time. Says the Gemara, Ihachi, if you're going to go ahead and say this limit of mechata, chatas nami nema oisa lishma kshera. Let's say oisa lishma should be kasha. Oh, meaning if you do it the right way, it's kosher. Shalai lishma is psula. Shalai lishma is pasul. Hashaz vachim. What about any other carbon? Bein lishman, bein shalai lishman ksherin. Got? Gewaldig. Okay. And for the Gemara, who I saw lav dafka. That v'shachrei says lav dafka. It's not limited to a chatas. Why? The Shaya Pesach. Impeccable logic. You can't possibly say v'shachrei sa means the only carbon shaloi lishma that's no good is what is chatas, but every other carbon would be good. It's not true. We know Pesach's no good. We had a whole limud, right? Pesach's no good. So Memela, it's lav dafka over there. Masha enkein by the one hamachata isa. That's dafka only what? Only a chatas shespritz above and not an asham. For the Gemara hachanami lav dafka the shayir oilis ha'oif. 1 second, guys. As I told you, there is another carbon that you do go above the chut sikra. It's the oilis ha'oif. It's the oilis ha'oif. So, but yet you're darshaning it dafka chatas and nothing else. On that, the Gemara answers, bizvicha miya lo shar midi. There's a difference between a blood carbon and a mitzui carbon. You know what, guys? The claim would go ahead. He would have a long fingernail, and he'd go ahead and pierce the back of the bird, basically making the vela, take it and push it, take off its head and push it against the mizbeach. We're not discussing that. We're discussing zrika. So in zrika, there is no other. You can quote me on this animal. There's no other animal that you can go ahead and spritz. Memela, I have that limud. Mashen came by shloi l'shma. We know it's not true because the pesach shloi l'shma is also no good. V'ba yasema hamani Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Shimon he right. V'ba yasema, or else I could tell you iba yasema. I could tell you what another teretz that oilas ha'oif, right. The iba yasema oilas ha'oif, the blood that you put above is not the same as what? As the blood of a, in other words, guys, outside. It might be above the chut sikra, but it's not above the same way. Guys, watch, look at me. Here's the chut sikra. As long as you get the oilas ha'oif over here, it's good. The chat ha'oif has got to be all the way by the horns. So memela, it's not the same. So you can't tell me hamachata isa is not a miyut because there's something else. There really is nothing else because good, the location is above the chut sikra, but only that's the only commonality he has. The other one is all speaking about the koronas. So says the Gemara, it's true that it's above the chut sikra, the oil of ice, but not. Hamani is who's the Tana? of this Mishnah of Elazar Rabbi Shimon. He Ama Hai Makom Lechud, Hai Makom Lechud. Chatas, the chatas behema and the oilus oif are two different animals. The Tanya, Domim hatachtoinim nitim michut hasikra ulamata. The blood of the oila, the asham, the toida, the shlamim is all below. Vel yoinim, the ones that are above the chut hasikra ulamaila. Rebbe Elazar of Shimon b'medam amurim ba'oilus oif. Al b'chatas behema hi atzma inasa el al gufan shel keren. It's not above the chut hasikra. It's on the keren itself. The mela guys, even though Rebbe Eliezer does darshan kechatas ka'asham, he can't possibly say that the asham should be above what the chut hasikra.